You see in Jude 11, woe to them, that is these false teachers that creep into the church, that teach things contrary to the will of God. Woe to them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, have run, notice it, greedily in the error of Balaam for profit, and perished in the rebellion of Korah. Look at that, greedily in the error of Balaam. Why was Balaam so bound and determined, even though God told him no, and then appeared to him along the way to show him again that He didn't want him to go? Why was he so bound and determined to go? Because he was greedy. He was greedy. You see, Balaam's compromise there over greed. And in 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 10 it says, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. And when you read that and you compare that with the story of Balaam, it's very fitting, isn't it? Why was Balaam going against the will of God? For the love of money. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And it's really sad when we see today people going in the same compromise of Balaam, who, because they are more concerned about the money, will compromise the truth of God's Word to bring in more people, to fill the plates with more money, to keep the budget up. And a lot of leaders, a lot of elderships will pay more attention to the budget than they do to what the preacher's preaching. And the preacher gets up and tickles itching ears to bring in people contrary to the teaching of God's Word. But as long as that budget stays up, well, they're just fine with what he's teaching. They're following the doctrine of Balaam. They're compromising for the same reason Balaam compromised. Because of the love of money. Or preachers. I know most of you have probably heard this preacher joke. That's really not a joke. It's true. It's a true story. But it's told a lot of times as a joke. The preacher who was trying out at a new congregation and is meeting with the elders, and the elders ask the preacher, what's your position on marriage, divorce, and remarriage? And the preacher says, brethren, I can teach it however you like it. In other words, you just sign the check and I'll preach whatever you want me to preach. No conviction of my own, no standards of my own, just whatever it takes to keep that check coming in. And the bigger the check gets, the easier it is to compromise. That's the doctrine of Balaam. That's compromising the truth for the same reason Balaam compromised the truth. And we have to be careful of Balaam's compromise over the love of money, which is a root of all kinds of evil. People will go astray in all kinds of ways for one reason. They love money. They're more interested in the money than they are faithfulness to God. And then, as we go back to Numbers chapter 25, verses 1 through 3, we see Balaam's counsel. And there in Balaam's counsel, we've already read through that passage. And in the passage itself there, in Numbers 25, 1 through 3, it doesn't say there that this is what Balaam told Balak to do. That Balaam told Balak to send the Midianite women, or the women of Moab, out there to tempt the children of Israel to commit fornication and to go with them into their idolatry. But we learn in the parallel passages that that's what happened. Look at Numbers chapter 31 and verse 16. Now this is when God's vengeance comes against Moab because of what they did, because of what Balak did. Look, these women, now the setting here in Numbers 31 is that the children of Israel, the army of Israel, had gone out to destroy Moab. And in going out to destroy Moab, they came back and they had saved alive the Moabite women and their children. And so Moses says, look, you brought back these women. These women were the very reason you went into the idolatry that you did. These women were the very reason that so many thousands of the children of Israel fell to a plague. Look, these women caused the children of Israel, through the counsel of Balaam, to trespass against the Lord in the incident of Peor. And there was a plague among the congregation of the Lord. So here you've brought back these women to Israel, to bring these women back, to intermarry with them, to integrate them into the children of Israel. The very women that caused the plague at Peor to happen. And he says it was at the counsel of Balaam. So the picture that we put together there is that when Balaam was not able to curse the children of Israel, Balak was mad. Balak said, I paid you to come here to curse these people, and you've blessed them. And going back to Balaam's compromise, he didn't want to lose that money. So he said, I got an idea. You send these women in there to tempt the men, and they'll commit fornication. They'll commit harlotry. And when they get attached to these women, they'll start worshiping Baal. And God, who blessed them, will turn against them. And so all through these oracles of Balaam, you see there that God's blessing of Israel and God's preservation of Israel is because they were His people, because they were faithful to Him. And so Balaam seems to have gotten this idea. Well, He's blessing them because they're faithful. He's blessing them because they're following Him. Moses is down there leading them in His Word. And so maybe the way to get them, to remove God's blessing from them, is to cause them to be unfaithful. And that's the truth. If we want to lose God's blessing, it would be because we're unfaithful to Him. That was Balaam's counsel. Cause them to be unfaithful in their allegiance to God, and He'll curse them. I don't have to curse them. Make them be unfaithful, and He'll curse them. It says in Revelation chapter 2 and verse 14, as we've already read, the children of Israel, he put a stumbling block, according to the counsel of Balaam, put a stumbling block before the children of Israel to eat things sacrificed to idols and to commit idolatry. That is, he tempted them to be unfaithful. And when they were unfaithful to God, God cursed them for their unfaithfulness. Balaam's counsel was the counsel of unfaithfulness. We have to be careful that the counsel we give is the counsel of God's Word, because anything else is the doctrine of Balaam. Counseling people in a way that would lead them astray from God's Word, that would cause them to lose God's blessings, that's the doctrine of Balaam. Christ said, which things I hate.